Hello and welcome to MidnightSilverCrafters.com. My name's Steve and I'll be your host.
Okay, welcome back. This is part two. We're talking about setting up your jeweler's bench and getting started making jewelry. And we're going to go ahead and cover the rest of the tools that we didn't cover in part one. So right here, what I got right here, this is a jeweler saw. All right, now this tool right here will make you a lot of money. I think I picked this one up at Michael's. I paid about 15 bucks for this. Maybe, no, I paid about 12 bucks for this, but it's been a really good saw and I've had it for years. But you want to get a good jeweler saw. Now here's some blades. You want to get a good selection of blades. Okay, now you want to get a variety of sizes because you're going to use a different size blade for different thicknesses of metal that when you go to start, when you're learning silversmithing and jewelry making. And it's important to have the right size blade to match the thickness of the metal that you're trying to cut. Okay, but a jeweler's saw will make you a lot of money. It's a tool that a lot of people get frustrated with it, but really it's dead simple. It really is. There's only a few things that you got to learn about it and you'll be a pro in no time. I'm going to have separate videos. I'll probably make a whole video just on the jeweler's saw because it's very important. Alright, so you want to get your jeweler saw. Alright, now, another thing you're going to need when you're at Harbor Freight, alright, you're going to need you some measuring tools, okay? Now, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need some measuring tools, okay? You're going to need the calipers, okay? And now right here, this is a pair of dividers. Now, these are from Harbor Freight, and yes, they're cheap, but they do work, and they work pretty darn good. I can do pretty much all my work with these dividers. I don't need to spend a lot of money on, you know, real high quality stuff because these work fine. But you'll notice all my tools have rust on them, and the reason they have rust on them is I live in Florida. I just work in my garage and everything gets rusty. No matter how much oil I put on stuff, everything gets rusty. But you're gonna get a pair of you know, this caliper here. That's for measuring, you know, your stones and stuff. Now, Harbor Freight, they sell these. I think these are about 15 or 20 bucks now, but it's well worth it. And you can get a pack of tools. They got all kinds of tools. Look for this. It's like a big pack. It's like 10 bucks, but it's got all kinds of dividers, and it's got just a slew of other stuff in there. So it's well worth the money. But remember, when you're doing your measuring, everything in jewelry, we deal in millimeters. We do not work in inches at all. So forget about inches, millimeters. It's much more accurate of a measurement. And, I mean, you know, it's just what we do in jewelry. We don't use inches. All right, now, so you're going to get you some measuring tools and some marking tools. These are the dividers and that. Okay, now we got that covered. Okay, now there's a couple other things that I didn't cover. Now, when we were talking, we already covered the pliers. I covered the pliers, but you see these pliers right here. These pliers right here. These are what they call parallel pliers. Okay. And they work differently than regular pliers. You see how these jaws come together? See, now when the jaws go down and close, they got that whole surface. You got a huge surface area for holding. See, and clamps down differently than regular pliers. Look for a good pair of parallel pliers. In jewelry making, it's really almost essential. You know, I mean, they're just, you don't have to have these, but boy, makes your life, just try to find a pair, because it's just a tool that you want to have. All right, so when you get your pliers, get you a pair of parallel pliers. All right, now I got a few more things that I want to talk about. Okay, they're basic tools you're going to need. Now right here, I don't think I covered these, but and just in case, I'm going to cover them real quick. Now these right here are some punches. Okay, now I made these. I just made these out of screwdrivers. Okay, but that one over there is a chisel. I just ground them down, but you see, I made these. Okay, now this I put a fine point. This one's more like a scribe for like scratching and marking, but you can punch a small tiny little divot for starting your bits and stuff like that, your drill bits and stuff like that. Okay, and then this one was a screwdriver. If you can see that end, I just cut that off straight and I polished it. Okay, and this is a little prong pusher. Okay, now I made this, like I said, out of just old screwdrivers, but that's a prong pusher, and these are punches. Well, this one's a scribe. Either way, it can be a scribe or a little punch, but you're going to need those, so you can make those. That's something that's real cheap. All right. Now, another thing while you're at Harbor Freight that you're going to want to get, okay, is you're going to want to get you a set of these micro drill bits. They got them at Harbor Freight, and they're cheap. And I'll tell you what, I've had good luck with these. I mean, these are micro drill bits. Okay, if you can see that. I mean, they're extremely fine drill bits. I mean, they're super tiny little drill bits, but you're going to need those for jewelry making. So while you're at Harbor Freight, pick you up a set of those. Okay, all right. Now we got most everything covered. There's a few items. Okay, now I think I've got the basic bench set up. Okay, covered. Okay, now one thing I want to touch on real quick is okay, well, here's another thing right here, is a scale. Now you see this scale, just get you one of these. They're cheap. You can get them on eBay for 10 bucks or less, but on this scale, on the back, it tells you, basically it has the accuracy. See, now this says times 0.1 grams. Okay, now don't get this exact type of scale where it says just 0.1. You want to get a scale that's 2 decimals over. In other words, it will be 0.15. Okay, or 0. After the decimal point, you want 2 numbers. Okay, that's real important when you start working with your metal and stuff. We'll cover that more later, but you know, you're going to need that. So don't get this, you know, 0.1. Don't get that. Get 0.01. 2 places over. Okay, that's going to be real important, and it's probably about the same price. Okay. All right, so the scale, we got that. Now, another thing I'm going to cover real quick is pickling. Okay, now, you can, I don't pickle anything anymore, but this is just a little pan that I had from way back when I used to pickle. But they have pickling solution that you can buy, and they have little, you can put it in a crock pot, or they have little mini crock pots, and But I personally do not pickle now. And the reason I don't pickle is because the solder that I use, okay, which, not the solder, but the flux, and like I was talking a little earlier about, here's some of the liquid flux I use that I have. Okay, now this flux, if you coat your whole piece with this flux, you won't have fire scale on your pieces. You'll get a little bit. Of course, you're going to always get a little bit, but they're not going to turn black on you when you go to solder them, which is really nice. I don't pickle at all because I really don't. I feel I don't have to pickle, and pickling is just an extra step, and then it's just something else I need to buy, the pickling solution. But when I did pickle, what I used to use, and it works really good. You may not want to do it this way, but what I used to use was just plain old battery acid, like out of old batteries. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, I don't want it. That's fine. You don't have to do that. But that's how I used to pickle, and I really like that way of pickling. It's cold. It's what they call cold. It's just acid, and you drop it in that battery acid a little bit. I always had a cover over my top there, and then you just drop it in for a second, take it out, and drop it in some neutralizing water, which is just water and baking soda. And your part is nice and white without, but like I said, I don't pickle at all, so I don't even worry about it anymore, because really the method that I do in making jewelry, you don't need to pickle, and I just don't need to. So there you go. But you can pickle if you want. You can get solution, you can buy it, but that's really up to you. So, oh, and another thing I forgot right now, when you get your jeweler's saw, when you get one of these, go to Walmart or go to the Dollar Tree and get some of this. This is plain old chapstick, but look on it and get one that has beeswax in it. Most all of them have beeswax, but get one that has beeswax in it, and this is the best you can get for lubricating this blade, because you got to keep this blade lubricated while you're cutting metal, or you're not going to have a lot of luck. But here's another thing we're going to talk about is these ring mandrels. Now I got two, and I'm going to show you why you want to get two of them. Alright, now this one right here is plastic, and I think I paid a grand total of $5 for that. Plus, when you buy that, you get these. If I can get them, you get these. Okay, you get all these little ring sizers. Now those come with the ring mandrel, and you can see this is marked on here. It's got all the sizes marked on it. Okay, and it's got it's got all different countries, US, UK, and everything marked on it. But this plastic one is only for sizing, okay? It's not for working metal. It's just for sizing, and these help the sizing as well. Okay, now, then you want to get one of these. This is a heavy-duty steel ring mandrel, and you want to get one. They're about 25 bucks. Look on eBay, but this is a ring mandrel that's steel, and you can see mine's really been beaten on a lot. Okay, but the thing is, you put your metal on here and you work it and you shape it. Now these will, when you get it, it's going to have sizes on it, but see, my sizes are all gone because just from making rings and pounding and working metal on it. But you want to get a good heavy steel ring mandrel, okay? Now, I think I've already covered soldering. I think the very next video I'm going to cover is going to be all about soldering, okay? Because you're going to need to learn how to solder. So look for, I'll put a link right at the end here on this video, up for the soldering video. But see, right here's a ring. Let me see if I can show you this ring. But you're going to need to learn how to solder, okay? And see, right here's a ring I made. Okay, if you can see that. But it's just like a cross. It's a wire cross. Get this thing to focus. But it's like a wire cross ring, and it's got a little turquoise cabochon right there. Little round turquoise right in the middle of it. But see, I just made that from a wax pattern, and then I just soldered that cross. I soldered that little backing plate for the stone on the top, and then on the back I soldered this ring shank. Now another video coming up real soon is going to be how to make a simple ring, which is going to be just the ring itself without the cross, you know, soldered on it. But that's gonna be like the entry-level starting video. How to make your first simple ring is going to be a ring like this, just a nice band, okay, just a straight plain band. But then you see, when you learn to solder, what you can start doing other stuff. See, I soldered these two. I got 3 pieces there soldered together, and it makes a ring. It makes a nice little wire cross ring. But my next video I'm going to cover soldering, okay? So that's what I'm going to cover. Now, I got just a few more things here to cover, and then we're going to have the bench part wrapped up, okay? Now, one thing too, you're going to have to get some stuff for buffing, okay? Which you're going to have to get some compound, okay? And you're going to have to, you know, get a few things for buffing. Now, they have these compounds, alright, and they have all kinds of buffing wheels and everything, you know. But what you're going to need as far as buffing, okay, this is how they got these compounds like this, okay, and they got 5 different grades of compound, okay, and it starts with brown, which is this little chunk. I ain't got much left, but this is what they call triple E. And when you buff, you do it in stages, but I'm going to tell you, I'll make a whole video just on buffing, okay? But the thing is, you don't have to buy every single grade of compound, because there's like 5 or 6 grades, I think. Triple E is the first one. This blue is the last one. Well, and then they have other colors. You don't need all of those colors of this type of compound. This is triple E right here, the brown. You can buy a stick of this at Harbor Freight, but all you need triple E. So you buff it with triple E, and you buff it really good. And then you just go to Walmart and you get you some of this. Okay, this is Mother's mag and aluminum wheel polish. Now you get you a can of this at Walmart, and you are good to go. Your pieces will look absolutely beautiful if you buff them with this. But I normally I'll go 2 steps. I'll go brown, I'll go triple E, and then I'll go with this, and it'll be beautiful. Now, if you want, you can do it, you know, you can go through every grade of compound, but I found I don't really have a need to do that unless, you know, you just really feel like doing it. And then I get these little buffing wheels, and I run these right on my flex shaft. Now I do I do a lot, not all, but I do a lot of my buffing with this flex shaft, okay, a lot. Because it's powerful enough, and you can put this size of a buffing wheel on it down to really the small little felt ones. And like I said, I'll make a whole nother video on buffing, okay, but you're going to need, start off, I'd get a stick of Tripoli and a can of this and some little felt wheels, and you should be good to go on your buffing, okay? Now, we're almost done. I got just a couple more things. Now, another thing, this is cerium oxide right here. Now, this is what you buff stones with. This is what you polish stones with, okay? And if you're gonna get into any stone work and doing stones and making cabs and faceting and all that, you're gonna definitely want to get some of this, okay? But now you can actually take this and you just make a little powder, a little bit of you put a little bit of water into this, okay? And you mix it up a little bit and you buff with it, and as a final step for buffing silver, you can use a little bit of this, and man, it really, because this is like ultra fine, okay, grit here. This is really for stones and cabbing and stuff like that, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. All right, well, I almost got it covered. Now, the only thing I really probably didn't say was what you want to get when you're running that flex shaft, all right, you want to get one of these. Now, you can wear a dust mask, but I would recommend a respirator. It's up to you. But when you're running that flex shaft, and when you're running any kind of power tools and all that fine silver dust, you don't want to breathe it. And also, you get this respirator. They're cheap. They're not much at Harbor Freight. But if you're going to do any stone work, you're going to be cutting any stones, you know, like this chunk of citrine right here. See, I've been cutting slabs. Well, you're going to want to have a respirator, okay, for any stone work you're going to be doing, if you want to do that. But definitely, when you're running that flex shaft, you got to have a mask, because, you know, you don't want, if you get your lungs full of silver dust, it's not going to be good. All right, well, I've almost got everything covered. You know, I'm thinking that's pretty much everything, the basics on setting up your bench. No, there's a couple of things. Let me real quick. I want to show you up here. I want to show you this. This right here. See that ring blank sizing chart. Now you gotta, if you're gonna make rings, you need one of these, and get it right there, put it by your bench. But look, it tells you the ring size and the material thickness, and I'll show you more about this when I make that video on making our very first basic simple ring. But I'll have a link to this on my website as well, okay, which I'm working on my website right now. There's not a whole lot there, but you know, I got a lot of products that I'm going to be making and putting up, a lot of stuff, jewelry tools and a lot of different things, so keep me in mind. But now I got two more things I'm going to show you, and I'm going to wrap this up, okay? All right, now go to Harbor Freight if you're going to do any work at all with jewelry. Now, when you're at Harbor Freight, as soon as you can afford this, now this is not much money. I think this, I paid about 59 bucks or 50 or 60 bucks. I can't remember, but that is a 1-inch belt sander. And I'm going to tell you, when you get making jewelry, if you do any work at all, you'll use this every day. I mean, literally, mine's over, I don't know, a couple years old at least, and I love it, and it runs just as good now as it did when I got it, and I use it pretty much every day. Because when you're making like a ring, okay, or something that has a bezel on it, something like a piece like this right here. All right, if you can see this piece right here, this is like a bezel. But see, like a bezel with a backing plate on it. All right, now, all around this edge, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to file all that around. If this was made out of metal and you were soldering these two pieces together, you'd have to get that whole edge on there all filed smooth all the way around. Now, you could file it and take a long time filing it, or you could put it right on here and do it in a couple seconds. Okay, it's such a time saver. You know, now this is something that you're not going to mount this on your bench where you're working, because it's going to be throwing silver dust everywhere. But you know, you'll have it mounted somewhere close to your bench. But this is just a little, you don't need one of these right away, but boy, when you can get 60 bucks, get it. I mean, it's worth every penny of it. So this is a little bit of a bigger item, but like I said, you'll want this mounted next to your bench, not right on it. And I got one more item I want to show you, and I'm going to wrap it up. Alright, now this is the last thing I'm going to show you. Now this right here is a metal shear. Alright, now when you start doing silversmithing and you got a sheet of metal and you need to make a long cut, you know, a couple inches long or longer, or an inch long, or just you want to make a good sized cut across your metal, well, you just put it right on there and it's a shear. Okay, now a good metal shear, and this will cut fairly thick gauge silver or sheet. It's not going to cut real thick, but it'll cut, you know, most of the different gauges you're going to be working with in jewelry making. It'll cut it with it like butter. Okay, and this thing, I think I paid 160 bucks for it, which, you know, that's nothing compared to all these big jewelry companies. They want $300 to $500 for a metal shear. Well, you don't have to pay $300 to $500. You can get this at Harbor Freight for, I think it was 160 bucks, but it's worth every penny. And like I said about my sander, I bought this the same time I bought that sander, and I've used it hard for at least 2 years at least, and it's cutting just like it did when it was new. So, and I've never sharpened that blade or anything, but boy, this thing really is really sweet when you're cutting sheet, or you're cutting, you know, any sheet metal for silversmithing or jewelry making. Pick up one of these as soon as you can afford it. And this is the most expensive tool that I've covered out of all these tools, but it's worth its weight in gold. And like the belt sander, this is a tool you're not going to have it mounted on your bench. I mean, you know, you can mount it close to your bench, but I mean, I guess if your bench is big enough, you could. because, you know, this is not going to throw silver dust all over like that little belt sander does. But always remember, always, when you're running that belt sander or that flex shaft, wear a respirator or a good heavy mask, because you don't want that down in your lungs. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I'll put the link right up here in the corner to the soldering video. My very next video I'm going to make is going to cover soldering. And if you're new to making jewelry and you definitely want to learn soldering, and it's dead simple, I'll show you how simple it really is. No need to get frustrated with it. No need to try to learn it on your own, because you're not going to figure it out. You know, it's dead simple once you know. There's about 5 little secrets to it, and then you'll be soldering like a pro, I promise you. So, my name's Steve. Thanks for watching. I really hope you subscribe, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber. So, we'll talk to you in the next video.